just your average everyday trucker, keeping it real. I'm your host, ChristopherBlodgett, and you're listening to Real Talk Tuesday. This week's topic: changes upon changes. Hey guys, welcome back. As always, appreciate you being here. And the inspiration for the topic this week is coming from the change that has already happened, and then a change that's actually taking place in the next 48 hours, but will have actually taken effect, or will have actually happened by the time this episode is released on Tuesday. So I think when I recorded the last episode, it was I think I did it Friday night technically, and so my grandson hadn't left yet. He was technically with us till Saturday, and then his dad and his stepmom, because his last day of school was Friday, so his dad and his stepmom, per the child support custody agreement with my daughter, basically right after he gets out of school, they get him for 6 weeks in the summer or whatever, and so they were picking him up. They were going to pick him up after school on Friday, but I guess they got up there late or whatever. So they came up here, picked him up at 6 o'clock on Saturday. So thankfully I got to see him Friday, and I got to see him a little bit Saturday, saw him before going to bed Saturday morning, and then before going to work on Saturday afternoon. So that's my last day of the week. Got to kind of see him briefly before I left. My wife actually had him, well, my wife and my daughter, they had him upstairs. It's funny because I came out and on the TV I saw what looked like Mario Galaxy or whatever. And I'm so used to, like, when there's been a lot of times that my wife, Nana, to our grandson, Nana would be, playing a game on the PS5, like Spyro or something, or sometimes Mario or whatever. And of course, the grandson, he would be up there because he likes to watch. Likes to watch her play, if she's playing Spyro, so he likes to watch the dinosaur go across the screen and, do the different tasks or whatever, or watch Mario basically jumping on the mushrooms and whatever, So I came out, I'm thinking, oh, that's cool, she's playing Mario, and, and he's watching that, and Allie was upstairs hanging out too, like they're both on the couch. They're trying to spend time together or whatever, before him leaving, because basically said that's one change, that like she's moving down to Georgia with the grandson. They're moving in they got a rental house with her long-term boyfriend. Maybe wedding bells in the future, who knows? But we haven't heard anything. We're basically, my wife and I are just like, if you guys end up deciding that, we just want to be involved. Like, we want to be able to be there, like to actually be witnesses at your wedding or whatever. We just don't run off and get married, secretly or whatever. Like, even if you go through like elope or whatever they call it, justice of the peace or whatever. 'Cause that's what me and my wife did technically, because we had a wedding planned in Texas when I got out of tech school and was going to my first base in Maryland. We actually were trying to get married in San Angelo, and I'd been separated from my ex-wife. I'd been separated from her for over a year, but she was fighting me on the divorce. Like, she made it very clear that, and I'd be very curious to know if my ex, shout out to Lori, but I'd be very curious if she has ever even like come across. I don't know, maybe she doesn't even listen to podcasts or whatever. But if she does, I'd be curious to know if she actually came across this and actually listens to me or whatever. I doubt it. I highly doubt it. But who knows? But Lori, if you do, feel free to reach out and say, hey, it's been like 20 years, babe. Again, I doubt it. But so. But she made it very clear that she, it's like she wanted this. This is how I interpret it. Like, she wanted the support. Like, she wanted me to financially support her, but she didn't want to be with me in a relationship. That's basically because she told me she wanted a divorce, but then she wouldn't actually go through with a divorce, but didn't want to be with me. And so it's like, well, I'm not just gonna stay married in a bad relationship. Like, I ended up being the one that filed, mainly because I was like, well, if the marriage is over, I'm not just gonna stick around. Part of it was I had just got out of the military, and I was making decent checks, as a new military guy, plus living on base. I didn't have like housing cost or whatever, and but I was supporting myself. Had to. Basically I was alone, didn't have anybody except for my parents. Anybody that I had basically was like, obviously at that point I would send, I don't even think like phones weren't, that was back in like 2006. So it was like, there were phones, but it wasn't like anything like now where, we have like high-speed data and, video calls and stuff. Back then it was like, you had like Nokias and stuff, loved them. I loved, man, if I could, like, I would actually go back to a Nokia. But the funny part about texting with those, where you're texting like 555-3311-6655. Like, you tap the number like however many times until you hit the right letter. So, and if you accidentally go online, you're like, shit, you hurry up and log offline so you don't get charged for the extra data that you're not supposed to use or whatever. Versus like now, like, things are so much better now with technology and stuff. But so didn't really have like phone numbers of people, like, text them back then too much. I mean, I think I had my parents' number, my phone, had a few other friends, but really didn't have a big circle. And my ex literally like got me in trouble with my commanding officer, because all of a sudden I got this message and I got called into the first sergeant's office, and I was basically like, why are you sending checks to your wife? I'm like, because we're separated, like, we've been apart for the past year, and she lives with her parents and they literally financially support her. He's like, well, it doesn't matter, like, you still have a legal obligation to financially support her. I'm like, sir, like, she's being covered 100%. Like, I'm on my own down here. He goes, doesn't matter. He's like, it's either you do this or you get court-martialed for it. I'm like, well, okay, So, send her a check for, I think it was like $250. He said, you gotta send her a check for like $250 every 2 weeks. Like, okay, yes sir. So mailed off a check, told her it was on its way, and then I waited like a day or two, because of course, like, the mail takes a couple days to back in the day when you had to mail physical checks. Waited like 48 hours, and then out of spite, because I was pissed off at her for the fact what I was having to do, I called the bank and canceled the check. And so she got the check, tried to deposit it, of course, and then, like, it didn't go through because it was canceled. So then a couple days later, I'm getting called back into the first sergeant's office, getting my ass chewed again, and of course, like, I knew it was coming. I wasn't surprised. I look back now and go, it was worth it. I would do it again. So of course I sent her another check. This time I didn't cancel it, whatever. But it's like, at that point, I think I'd already met my wife. She was a civilian on base. Met her during a base tour, which is kind of funny because she was working at the bowling alley. And we came in there like, hey, where they're like showing us around base, like, so this is the bowling alley, blah blah blah. And my wife, of course, talked to us. I don't even remember what she talked to us about, but I just remember she talked to us about something. Hey guys, welcome, blah blah blah. Hey, nice to meet you, whatever. And then of course we continued on our way on the tour. And then she and I met again at church when I was trying to find a place to fit in or whatever. So I went to join the choir at the gospel service, and I walk in there, go to attend this church, and it's literally like an entire black congregation. And of course, I'm the only white dude attending church that morning, and it's like, of course, looking around like I feel a little out of place because and then of course, talk to the pastor. Hey, you guys looking for any singers for your choir? He's like, yeah, come on, we do practice on Thursday. Why don't you come up here then, and that way you can meet everybody. I'm like, okay, That day I was the only white dude in the church, white person in general. But everybody's pretty nice. So I came up Thursday, got there early, and I walk in with mostly empty church, and literally there's this redhead white chick just sitting in the pew, and I'm like, oh, okay, there's someone else here, awesome. I go and sit next to her, but hey, how you doing? And, oh, there's someone else. I'm like, yeah, I thought I would be the only white person here or whatever, like. So we hung out, and kind of hit it off or whatever. But it was one of those where it's like, hey, you want to go to my apartment and watch a movie? And I was like, well, technically I need to study for a test, for tech school, but yeah, let's go, So went off base to her apartment, hung out. I think after dating for I think it was 6 months, and by that point, my ex's mom, that's the part that really sucked about that divorce, which, I don't know, maybe, her parents and her brother, Doris, Naomi, Lance, hey, if you guys listen to podcasts and you've come across this show or whatever, just want to say hey, because, miss you guys. I had a falling out with my parents back then, and basically I was with my ex for felt like a very, very long 5 years. So, but her parents and her brother, I felt were actually, they were family to me. So when we got divorced, basically it's like I literally lost everybody on that side. It was like, so that was hard, to go from literally having her family as my family as well to, oh, I don't have anybody now. This is great. Hell, there's been times, I'm not gonna lie, there's been times where I've thought about actually friend requesting her brother at least, or sending a message or whatever, but I know she's been married and divorced at least once more, and married, I think she's currently married again, but I think she's still married to, whatever, so she's on husband number 3 as far as I know. Yes, I've looked her up on occasion. It's been a couple years, been 5 years since I've done it, but I know I looked her up, try to see if I could find out how things are going, where she's at, whatever, try to look up her family, see how they are, because again, 5 years, that was really close to them, and it was a big loss, but hey, so when it came time when me and my wife, we were gonna try to plan for a wedding because we were engaged and whatever, but I was still technically married to my ex. Was working through my attorney, trying to get her. We went to court. She fought me on the divorce, basically like, yeah, you're. The judge was like, yeah, you're not technically a resident here. Like, how long have you been here in San Angelo? It was like, I've been here since like March or whatever. So, well, that's only like 4 months. Like, you gotta be here 6 months. So unfortunately, I can't move forward with this divorce proceeding. I gotta dismiss it. I'm like, I was like, Your Honor, like, she doesn't want to be married to me. Like, she doesn't want the relationship. Like, I don't know why she's fighting me on this. He's like, well, I don't have any control over that. All I have any control over is the legal part. And she brought that to the court's attention, and she's disputing it. That we literally cannot be doing this case down here until you've been here for 6 months. And then you can claim residency, or whatever. I'm like, okay, So I went to my attorney, and basically, like, I was like, what can we do? Like, do we have any options? Because, like, literally, I'm about to ship off to Maryland. Obviously, I plan to get married to my now wife. But at the time, I was like, I plan to get married to her. What can we do? And they're like, well, do you think she would sign if you offered her like a payment? I was like, you mean like kind of like a bribery or whatever? She's like, probably, kind of. I was like, well, I mean, I can get it. My lawyer was like, well, how much can you get access to right now? I was like, 1,000. I was like, okay, well, why don't we do this? Why don't we draft up a thing to the other attorney saying that you'll offer her $1,000 payment if she'll sign the paperwork. I'm like, okay, do it. And so they reached out. The other attorney basically came back and said, yeah, she'll do it. So I literally sent cash with my attorney to her attorney, but she had already left town instead of like sticking around, even though she agreed to this cash payment. So I had to ship off. Like, I came up to Maryland, basically. Not gonna lie, I gamed the system a little bit up there, because technically I was, so I got base housing, but because technically I was still married, I wasn't divorced yet, so I was able to get base housing. And then literally we just kind of transitioned to like it was like 3 or 4 weeks. I think it was like a month and a half, something like that. But I was literally living in the house, getting furniture for us, working at the firehouse or whatever. And it was like a month and a half, and then I got this, literally got a letter from my attorney saying that they, is literally the official divorce decree, signed and whatnot from my ex, whatever, saying congratulations, you're officially divorced. Like, oh, cool. But actually, I think it might have been longer than a month and a half. I don't know, but I know it was within a short amount of time that like I came back to Texas after being in Maryland. I flew down to Texas to help her pack up her apartment and load up a moving truck and whatnot, and move us up there. Even though technically she wasn't the one listed that I was married to, but. So she was living in the house with me for a while, for probably a good month before we got the divorce decree and the official, hey, congratulations. And so it's like, she was freaking out because she's like, well, man, like, are we gonna, like, is this gonna cause issues? And I'm like, oh no, because like technically, like, I am married, and so when you're married, you get base housing. So basically, we just transitioned it, we switched it out from me in the house, technically on paper with my ex, to me in the house with my new wife. So, you know how it is, guys, but literally it's like, when we got that divorce decree and everything was official, literally like the very next morning, we were at the courthouse, me dressed in my dress blues and her dressed up in a dress. She was in the wedding dress, so we want to do we're wanting to do like a renewal at some point where she'll get to wear her wedding dress, whatever. I don't think I'd be able to wear the dress blues because I don't think they fit me now, but I'm a little bit bigger than I was back then. But So that was nice, finally got everything taken care of, did the wedding officially, and so then she's like being able to breathe, because she's like, oh man, I can breathe. She was freaking out, thinking like, I think the military police are gonna show up and kick me out. Like, they're not gonna do that. You're fine. Because then, got everything transitioned to where, so then it was me and her, and not me and my ex that were technically, listed in the house. I was like, yeah, we're fine. It's, just relax. It's one of the things that my ex never knew, I don't think, because I never said anything to her. I mean, we didn't talk after the divorce. We haven't had anything to do with each other again. So no kids, thankfully. So that was kind of a clean break. Didn't have to worry about. But one thing about her though is like I had stuff. I think I had stuff with her that when you like when you try to get some stuff back and you have important things like belongings or whatever. So I had like a referee bag. So I was a soccer referee. It had like all the equipment, like uniforms, flags, whistles, the red and yellow card, other stuff too, like water bottle, the little cool band you get from official sports or whatever, which I don't even know if they're still around. I assume so, but this little bandana thing that you put it in water, and it's made of a certain material inside of it that kind of puffs up when it's wet. So what you do is you put it in water, you let it inflate, kind of like puff up, and then you put it in the fridge or the freezer. And then, when you get to go out there and be working in the sun and the heat, you put that around your neck or whatever, and it's like literally like a cold bandana that's got this gel, inflated gel in it, whatever. It keeps you nice and cool when you're out there in the sun. So that was nice during like refereeing soccer in like July or something. But I had my quilt that my mom actually made for me when I was a senior, when I was graduating. So I had messaged when we were at our, I think it was when we were in our house on base. I think I messaged and sent them an email basically, hey, I've got some stuff that's there. Is there any chance you guys, if I would send you money for it, would you guys be willing to send it to me? I was like my quilt my mom made, like I'd really appreciate it because it means a lot. Or my former father-in-law was like, yeah, that's fine. Yeah, just I was like, yeah, let me know how much it'll be. And he sent me a thing, and I sent him a check or something. All right, cool. And I should have asked me other stuff too, but of course I didn't at the time. But they're kind of petty anyway, because so they sent the quilt, and I had I had gotten help with my ex mother-in-law. Like they helped me get a car. At one point, I had a 2001, I think it was like a green, like forest green Dodge Intrepid. Loved the car. I'd gone through her to get that car, and it was kind of like it was like $5,000. Like she paid for it. I had a deal that I'd worked out with her. Like she's like, yeah, I'll buy the car. She's like, I'll buy the car, then you can do like monthly payments. Like we could set up a contract or something where you'll pay me monthly like $150 a month until it's paid off. I'm like, okay, yeah, that's fair. That's totally cool. And then when I said yeah, it's like as long as we're both on the title, like you and I are both listed, like since you're the one that paid for it, but I'm paying you, so I would like to be on the title, showing that I have part ownership of the car as well. She agreed to that. But then, when she paid for the car, and basically, she ended up just basically registering it in her name on the title, and, basically not putting me on there at all. And I was like, but we had this agreement. And she's like, yeah, no, well, I just did it this way. I'm like, all right. So for probably about 2 years while we were down there, 2 or 3 years, was paying $150 a month on that car, and I mean, I might have actually had a actually probably 2 years, because I know at one point I had switched vehicles, but I was paying her $150 a month on that car, and my ex actually ended up wrecking the car, like one morning, cause we both had a car. Like we got her a Volkswagen Jetta. Never gonna buy one again because I remember taking that fucking car in to go get an oil change. It was like, I mean, now I'm, with my my Silverado, I paid 140 to get my truck done. Anyway, but back then, like, you could do like oil changes for like 30 or like 20 or 30, and that Jetta was like 75, and I'm like, holy crap, why is it so fucking expensive? Of course, looking back now, I'm like, oh man, that was actually, that's what we're paying now. What do you know? But like, oh yeah, the reason why it's like expensive for an oil change is because of like special tools, blah blah blah. Like, oh, that sucks. All right, it was a good car. It was a nice car, But for whatever reason, I don't know why she did, but she went to go to work and she decided to take my car instead of her car. And I don't know if she was texting while she was driving, but she ended up renting a pickup truck that had a tow hitch on the back, and so basically like it's completely fucked up the front of my car, like the radiator and the grill and blah blah blah. The hood was all crunched in, and of course the truck. I mean, he had a tail hitch, no damage at all in his truck, but all So she calls me on the phone, baby. I'm so sorry. I'm like, what happened? Well, I'm in your car and I accidentally rear-ended a truck, and it's pretty bad. I'm like, why you're in my car? What? Yeah, I'm really sorry. I'm like, where are you at? So I was driving over there in her car to pick her up, and we had the car towed. I think we had my car towed to her parents' house because they had a little driveway out in the back of their house that I was able to park in. I was like, oh man. So her dad was helping me kind of, straighten things out, like try to straighten the hood back out, try to get some of the, other parts and stuff, try to like basically fix it back up. And they got to a point where actually like, I think I decided that's when I got my regular cab Dodge Ram back then. Ended up, went to a dealer, and it was with my ex or whatever. And we got approved and put like $500 down or something. Got my truck, and literally, because I think I might have been driving. I don't know. I think we'd fixed the Intrepid up enough to where I technically was driving it, even though it looked like crap, But got my truck, and plus I had thought too. It was like, well, she never put me on the title. Like she screwed me over. Not the ex, but her mom. Like, well, she never put me on the title like we agreed. In the contract, where literally we made a contract and said it, and she didn't do it. So it's like, wasn't like notarized or an official contract. It was just like we wrote it on paper. Made like a little agreement, whatever. We both signed it. And she's like, yeah, okay, well. So I was like, I kind of decided, you know what? I'm gonna go ahead and buy my own vehicle, and I'm just gonna give this car back to her because legally it's hers. I'm not on the paperwork at all. I'm not gonna keep paying for it. Cause I also thought like, well, I don't know if I'm gonna pay it off, and then she's gonna just basically end up not giving me the car anyway because legally. So I thought, well, took the car back, gave it back to her, and she was kind of pissed about that. I was like, yeah, I bought this truck, and I figured I'm not on the title anyway, so I figured I'm just gonna give you back the car and let you do what you want with it. She's like, well, we had an agreement. I'm like, yeah, we all signed an agreement that I was gonna go in the title, so I would have I would have ownership of the car. It would just be my word versus yours, saying, well, I've been paying every month. Well, it doesn't matter. She's on the title, not you. Like, okay, well, so when me and my wife were up in Maryland, and I was, and I had requested them to send me the quilt my mom made for me. They agreed to that. They, hey, yeah, it's gonna cost us much. All right, cool. I'm dropping money off the mail tomorrow. It'll be there in a couple days. And then I got the package that had, the box that had my quilt in it. And thank you so much. But then, like, I don't know, it was like 6 months later, I got a message, an email from her dad, basically, because they still had the Intrepid, and they wanted, like, they basically were like, hey, we still have that Intrepid that we bought for you that you're paying on. but we need you to come get that car and basically like pay the remaining part that you still owe on the car. And I was like, well, I'm not on the title of that car. That was Naomi. And per the divorce decree, everything, any debts I have on that side, with you, like on the, her side of the family, basically are hers. Like, and anything that's on my side is mine. And again, I don't have any paperwork showing that I'm like any kind of ownership of that car. And so they're like, oh, okay. And didn't fight me on it anymore. But then later on, that's when I was trying to, I went back to them again, like, hey, any chance you guys can mail me the referee bag? Because I was like, I just didn't think about it, blah, blah, blah. And they were like, well, per the divorce decree, everything that's in her possession after the divorce is hers. I'm like, okay, well, she doesn't referee soccer, so... Well, actually, I was requesting the referee bag and my bowling bag. I had a bowling bag that had a fancy bowling ball, had bowling shoes, a towel, some other stuff. And they were like, well, yeah, well, per the divorce decree, it belongs to her, but she doesn't bowl, she doesn't referee soccer, but okay, fine, fuck you guys, So we hadn't spoken in probably the past 20 years, married to my wife now for almost 20. So it's like, okay, but long tangent right there. Didn't even need to go into all that stuff. But so back up to currents. Trying to remember where I was going with that. I had a thought process before I was going on that long ass story, or whatever. So last week, Alex left. Went off with his daddy, whatever, and then Allie is moving with her boyfriend. He's actually flying up tomorrow, technically. I guess technically today now. So flying up today around 4 o'clock or whatever, and I guess they're picking up moving truck on Monday, and they're gonna try to get it loaded and get out of there the same day. Which she's been moving stuff from the grandson's room and from her room, moving it into the garage to basically try to make it easier for them to load it. Which I'm like, hey, whatever you guys gotta do. And we've already we've replaced one couch, and we have another couch. That's because our plan with the bedrooms is we're gonna put couches with pull-out beds in the bedrooms, in her room and Alex's room. We're gonna still make them spare rooms, but we're gonna turn them more into office spaces, but still have a couch as a pull-out bed, so that people can buy to visit, or if they come back up from Georgia to visit, they can either crash here at the house, or like I told her, hey, anytime you guys come to visit, give us a heads up at least a little ways out, like, hey, we're gonna come up next month. Because then I said, if you give us enough notice, I'll freaking get you guys a hotel room for the week, so that way you guys don't have to stay at the house, and you guys can have your own space, and enjoy the hotel, and actually enjoy the quote-unquote vacation, just come over to the house to hang out or whatever, but then go back to the hotel, whatever, it's like actually have the travel experience. Even though I'm sure they'd be fine with staying at the house too, because they know that, obviously we'd probably feed them and whatnot, but so, I'll see them a little bit today. It's up in the air what we're gonna do, because I had mentioned to my wife that I was like, last week I thought about, hey, it'd be really cool to go to the Japanese steakhouse with the two of them, kind of like a proper send off, but it's fucking expensive. Like, me and my wife, when we go, I think with the tip, it was like $175. So it's probably like $150 for the two of us or whatever. And so I was saying, like, hey, I know it's expensive, but it'd be cool to go and do that for everybody. But then, of course, the wife, and I had said, like, I was thinking about it. I had said, like, hey, we're definitely doing it. I was like, yeah, it'd be really cool to do it, but I'm not sure. And then, the other day, my wife was actually taking care of her ID and her license and all that stuff. And, she called and was telling me about it. And she's like, yeah, I'm telling Alia that you want to go to the Japanese place, whatever, and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, was like, well, I wasn't gonna say anything because I didn't know if we're gonna do it. But I was like, crap. Now I'm freaking out financially because I'm like, it's probably gonna be like $300 or $400 for the 4 or 5 of us. Crap, you know. So I was like, I know I'm not gonna get any help there. But so then she calls the night when I'm on the road because, of course, like I hadn't eaten yet, hadn't gotten coffee, so it's kind of, first part of my trip. Sometimes, depending on how my day's going, I'm like, I'm tired, I'm stressed. Ah, man. She's like, I was just, just racking my brain, and how about, we don't have to go. I know we like the Japanese place, and we could always go like the two of us or us with Zoe after Allie leaves, but we could always go somewhere else, like Applebee's or something, or I could even cook at home, and it's like, I was like, well, I mean, I was like, I just want to do something memorable, something, but at the same time, I don't want to spend $400 on dinner for everybody, like when we had, I think when it was like, I don't know if it was her birthday or something. I don't remember. It was some kind of special occasion. It wasn't an anniversary or Zoe's birthday because that one was like a month after, because our anniversary and her birthday are on the same month. So it's like it was the following month when we ended up. Might have been for Allie's birthday because I remember her, Logan came up and we went out that weekend on Sunday because I thought, well, I want to take everybody out. Let's go to let's go to Golden Corral because hey, that's still expensive, $20 or so a person, but at least how much, like when you go in there, you pay up front. So it's like, hey, it still was like $160 or something for everybody. Because their sibling Eli was with us too, and so I was offering everybody like, hey, Eli, you can be here tomorrow because we're taking everybody to Golden. Figured everybody can eat whatever they want, and easy way to have big meals and still be able to have it not be like $400. They're like, yeah, I'll be here. But okay, cool, you're invited, obviously, But kept it simple like that, which my wife even mentioned that. Well, we could always do Golden, whatever. Yeah. I was like, maybe we'll do one of the regular restaurants, like maybe go to Texas Roadhouse or something. And I said I'd be cool with Applebee's though, because they did a to-go order the night that my youngest kiddo graduated. I waited. It's like Thursday night. I had to wait until literally waited until like 10:30 when my paycheck actually hit the bank. It was like, hey, cool, we can get food, awesome. Went online, ordered a pickup order, and then I had to go in there and stand inside the restaurant to wait on it. And pretty homey, cozy feel in there. They got the bar like in the middle, got like tables on both sides, and they got the bar section in the middle or whatever. And it's like, oh, cool, all right, So there would be cool, So I don't know what we're gonna do today. But I said, hell, I'm fine with cooking at home too. Maybe we get stuff to make homemade tacos, or I said, hell, I even thought about maybe scheduling like an actual movie at a theater, like going to see a movie together or whatever, because that wouldn't be too terribly expensive. Usually with the concessions and stuff, it ends up being like $150. It's like $60 for the tickets, and then like $70 or $80 or whatever, depending on what everybody gets. Cause I usually just get like a large butter popcorn and a drink. My youngest usually gets like one of the tall ass bottles of water, and then like whatever snacks she's getting. So that's a possibility too. But at the same time, it'd be cool to hang out at home. But I have a feeling that even if we're home, not going anywhere, not doing anything, I have a feeling they're going to be like moving stuff to the garage and trying to plan for the next day and stuff. So I was like, Allie, are you guys planning to leave on the same day you pick the truck up? well, if we can get everything loaded by like 4, then we probably will. I'm like, all right. 'Cause I think they're planning to go to Nashville because the baby daddy's folks or whatever was like, well, if you guys want to get a hotel in Nashville, like we'll pay for it and stuff. That'll be like halfway to. I think it's. I don't know. That might be halfway. It's a little bit more than halfway. It's 500 miles to Nashville. And I think it's like 800 to Georgia from here, so it's probably like 2/3 of the way. But I'm like, if you're going to Nashville, it's like a 10-hour trip. You might want to leave before 4 because otherwise you guys are gonna be there like 2 in the morning. You know, you usually gotta check out by like 11. So, but you know, it's they're the ones doing it. I'm not gonna worry about it. I'll let them let them, you know, get their truck packed, get on the road, basically be officially moving, and then once they're no longer here with us, then it's not our problem, I guess, you know. Like, obviously we'll be here if they need us, but once they leave, it's like, good luck, guys, you know, like, be safe, take care of each other, take care of that kiddo, let us know when you get there safe, you know. So, I'll admit though, like, now I'm doing okay, but the first couple days of, you know, after Salix left, like, it was tough. So, like, Saturday, he was, you know, watching Mario Galaxy with my daughter and my wife, and, you know, it came out, you know, I gave my daughter my phone with the camera brought up, and I sat next to the grand kiddo. The guy said, hey, Alec, can you get a picture with the two of us? So she said, yeah, so snapped a photo. I'm like, thank you. Posted that to the family group chat, whatever. You know, hugged him, told him, hey, buddy, I love you. He goes, love you too, Pawpaw. Like, have fun with Daddy and Mimi and Paw over there. Not talking about the fact that after, like, literally he's going down there for 6 weeks and he's not coming home here. He's going home to his new place, his new house in Georgia. My wife talked to him about that a couple weeks ago. Because I guess my daughter she had talked to him like a couple times about it, but he's 7, so it's like, you know, probably didn't remember, and hell, probably didn't remember after my wife talked to him. But she's like, you know, buddy, when you go down there, like, you're not coming home here. And he's like, what? So, you know, he's like, I'm not coming home. And say, well, baby boy, like, this is always gonna be your home. You and Mama and you know, Logan, you guys are always welcome here. Like, you can come back anytime. But you know, Mr. Logan has got you guys a new house, and you know, so you guys are gonna go live there, and you know, you're gonna get a new room, blah blah blah. And so he was crying, and my wife was crying, and she's telling me about this on the phone, and I'm crying. So it's like, so after saying goodbye to him, and then walking out the door, and I'm walking over to my truck, my Silverado, to you know, head to work, and of course I had to stop. I had to open my door of my truck, and I kind of stood there for a second, taking a few deep breaths, because I had that tightness in my chest, the pain, you know, because it was like, I'm gonna go. Knowing that I'm leaving, he's gonna leave in the next hour or two, and basically he's not gonna be back here for however long, whatever, you know. So that was tough, you know. Probably had multiple times in this first 3 or 4 days that listening to certain songs and basically just break down sobbing, you know. So it was tough. Then I noticed after like 3 or 4 days, I noticed that like that I had, you know, you have to sometimes, like, my wife would argue with me because I like sometimes the way I would deal with stuff like that, because I wear my heart on my sleeve, and so it's like when there's things like that are like sad, like intensely sad. I almost can't function, you know, because like all of a sudden I'm just like, I think hell when my daughter had him, you know, when she had my grandkiddo, they were at that first, like, we found out about it, like, we didn't know she was pregnant. She was able to hide it from us pretty effectively, like wearing baggy clothes, while was being under a blanket and stuff for the full year, for the full 9 months or whatever. And so we had no idea. Like, we until she woke my wife up one morning and basically said, I am so sorry, Mom, I have in fact lied to you. I am in fact pregnant and I'm having a baby now. And of course she's like, what? So 2 a.m. I'm out there doing my 34-hour break, and I'm gonna get back on the road the next morning. My phone goes off at 2 in the morning, and I'm like thinking, oh, like what happened? Is it's 2 in the morning. Why are you calling me? And then she tells me this over the phone. I'm like, I was like, love, I have fucking work tomorrow. It's like, So, and then they're talking about like, well, like she's talking about putting him up for adoption because they don't know if they want to raise him. And I'm thinking like, I'm gonna come home and I didn't expect to be a grandfather, but I'm gonna come home and my grandson's not even gonna be there because you guys are gonna give him away practically. So every time I fueled for that next week before I was able to get home, I was sobbing at the fuel pump because I, thinking like that's my grandson. Like I don't want to just never meet him. Like thankfully she thought that her ex was actually going to be heavily involved and they would be able to raise them together. But they ended up breaking up within a couple months after he was born because he basically made it clear he just wanted to be with her. He was a dad mainly because he had to be, but he wasn't a dad because he wanted to be there doing the dad role. He wanted her, but she obviously was like, I need your help. Like, we had this kid, like it shouldn't just be all me. So I think at one point during that week, I went on a video call with him while I think I was at a truck stop, and I called. I was like, hey, can I talk to you guys on video? Like when I get parked in like an hour? And they're like, yeah. So I was like, is Sam there? Because he needs to. I want him to be involved in this too, because they were still technically dating at the time. I was like, guys, like I understand why you're looking into what you're looking into. I was like, but I just want you to keep in mind that like this is a permanent thing. Like if you guys adopt him out, like you guys won't be able to. I know that they were saying like, well, maybe we'll find somebody to adopt him, but then we can still be involved in his life. Blah blah blah. And I'm like, it's probably not gonna work like that. I was like, if you adopt him, if you put him up for adoption, you probably won't have anything to do with him again. Unless he's like 18 and looks you guys up or something. But I was like, he'll just be gone. Like he'll be with another family. I was like, you guys are gonna have to be okay with that. That'll be hard as hell. But I was like, I basically said I don't want you guys to have to, in like 5 years from now, you guys are in a better spot, and you look back and go, I really wish I hadn't done that. I was like, so just obviously it's your decision. Just think of, but I just want you guys to think very long and hard about it to make sure that it's what you guys really want. We'll support you. I said obviously like the idea of not meeting him, rips my heart out, but I totally understand, if that's the decision you guys make, because I know it's young parents and whatnot. I was like, I get it, so don't let anything me or mom, I said, to like affect what you guys decide. Just think about what's best for you guys, what you guys want, and think about if you'd be okay with in the next like 5 or 10 years not having any regrets. And we don't want you to have any regrets in that. And they actually ultimately they're like, well, yeah, you think your dad makes a good point. Like I don't want to give him up. That was even like the bio dad. That's what he was saying. So it's like, okay, but so they kept him. She had him. She had Alex full time with her, and then like within 3 or 6 months, they ended up like she broke up with him because like he just literally was not working with her at all as far as like being there for her with the kiddo. It was he wanted to be with her because he wanted stuff. Be a dad so you can get lucky. She was like, no, like I need a partner. Like that's what I thought we were gonna do. Like so. But I had mentioned to her when I think it was like a couple days back before Alex actually left. I think it was like Thursday or Friday when I was staying up a little bit later to basically give him hugs before sending him off to school. Trying to see him and make the most of the time since I knew he was leaving in a couple days. I told her, I was like, don't get me wrong, like obviously I don't want you guys to go. rips my heart out to not have you guys here, because I would love to have him here, graduating high school at 18 and having been here with us with you the whole time. I was like, but at the same time, I know that we've been with him a lot. They moved out briefly, so we've had him for like 5.5, 6 years. Out of the going on, like December he'll be 8. Can't believe it. But we've had him for like 5.5, 6 years, with us, and I was like, we feel that we have a pretty good bond with him, and we have a big connection. Like, I don't think we're gonna lose that. He knows he has us or whatever. So it's like, it's just sad for him to go, but I know that we were connected. I know that he'll, hopefully we'll always have that bond or whatever. Like, hopefully when he starts, like when he gets his own phone or something at some point, hopefully we'll be getting random calls. Hey, Papa. Hey, it's Alex. How are you? Love you, Papa. Love you too, baby boy. So it's like, it was tough for a couple days, but then like what I was talking about with that I'm saying that my wife doesn't like what I do is because sometimes in order for me to try to deal with stuff and try to like heal, I literally will like hurt my heart or try to put up walls or whatever, and deliberately try not to think about stuff for a little bit until I can get to the point where you can think about it and have it not affect you. My wife said that's not healthy. like you need to cry, you need to grieve. I'm like, and I have, but I don't. I was like, I need to function too, because I'm out here driving. I have to be able to focus to work, and if I'm going down the road, I'm a big snotty mess because like shudder sobbing and like nose running and whatever. I was like, I'm not gonna be able to be safe out here because I'm not gonna be able to concentrate. So she's like, I know, it's just still not safe. We're still not good. I'm like, I know, but I gotta do what I gotta do. The first couple of nights, it was like I was, aired. The wife and I were texting back and forth, and I'm like, see, this really sucks. I was like, I'm really struggling with it right now. She goes, yeah, my heart hurts. I'm like, yeah, mine too. But then we got a couple of days into this week, and I mentioned, I was like, I was like, I think it helps when you're like making changes a little bit, because what hurt before when she left, she moved out all of a sudden without really us realizing that she was moving. Like one day we just came home and she's packing a truck and leaving. We're like, what, huh? She's pissed at us about something, and it decided to just up and leave, and we didn't have any contact with her for like a year and a half, 2 years. Her room was still furnished, like she still had her bed in there, a lot of her stuff. We had sippy cups and toys laying around the apartment that were his, and it was tough. Like we got to a point where we rounded up all his stuff that we could find, took it up to her room, and basically put the stuff in her room and closed the door, and just left her room closed for a while. Then my youngest at a certain point, because she didn't have any contact with him either, with my oldest or whatever. She's like, I really want to like turn Allie's room into a game room or something. I was thinking about that too, like getting rid of the stuff in there, because I don't think we're gonna hear from her. So like, clearing out her room, donating whatever we can, And I was like, moving the entertainment center that's in our room, move that into that room, and maybe get a couch to put in there. And she's like, yeah, I'll be down with that. But my wife wasn't really on board with it, because in her mind she was saying that well, no, she's probably gonna come back. I'm like, she's not coming back though. Like, she's really pissed, and she's been ignoring our messages and whatever, and so it's like she's like she's not coming back. I was like, I can't just leave her room with her stuff. I was like, it's too hard, I can't deal with this, like we need to move forward. So for a while she wouldn't let us touch the room, and then I guess she got to the point where she finally, I guess she was trying to message and reach out, and the oldest sibling that is not for me, it's from her. They both have the same dad, Allie and the older sibling, but like I adopted Allie when she was 10 or 11 or 12 or something like that. But but they have the same dad, and so the older sibling was down there basically like Allie was gonna move in with them, and that older sibling's adopted mom. My wife was trying to reach out to them, and basically the mom was like, "You have to like this is between you and them." And my wife's like, "Yeah, but they won't talk to me. Like, how am I to fix this? If you're telling me that I have to deal directly with them, but they won't deal with me." She's like, "I can't help you, but you have to talk to them. Like, this has to be worked out between you. Like, but you're the one that's there with them right now. Like, how can't you help by saying something like, hey, you guys need to talk to your mom, blah blah blah." So, but so um, that was a pretty rough time right there, because it was like that, you know. But we turned that her old room into a game room. That's where it got to that point where my wife finally said, "Fuck it, go ahead." Right, cool. So it's like donated the bed, got rid of some furniture stuff that was in there. Again, I wouldn't have done it if I thought she was coming home, but at the time it was like, I can't see all your stuff around here because I'm gonna be thinking about you all the time, and it's already hard enough. So when she left, like that night, literally, like I was pacing back and forth, sobbing, and because of course, like her grandson, he was playing with us before she left, and we were playing with him. He's like, "You're not gonna see us or Auntie Zoe for a while, like Mama's moving away, blah blah blah." Of course, he was a couple years old, like 3 or 4 at the time, so he didn't know. He had no idea. Just like wrestling with us on the bed and playing with us, and we're like heart wrenching because we're thinking like we don't know if we're gonna see this little boy again. So we had to get to the point where we cleared that room out and turned it into we had a couch in there, entertainment center. She had her art. My younger daughter had her like art stuff, and we had put stuff on the walls. I mean, it was a nice room. It was everything all nicely set up, and like we got on the PlayStation. When it was still before my oldest and my grandson, before they came back, like 2 years later. Me and my youngest would go in there and play Call of Duty Zombies or whatever. Just like go in there and play against each other, utilizing that space for positive reasons, not leaving it in a negative atmosphere or whatever. So I've noticed that over this past week, after my grandson is left officially, and we started like, cause he was always in the game room down to the bottom floor, playing his Switch, on the TV or watching YouTube, whatever. And it was like that couch was the one that we had in the game room in Nashville, and so it was like my older daughter slept on that couch pretty much a lot when she moved back to Nashville, and then he's been on it a lot, playing games and whatnot. Of course, whenever Logan would come visit, like they would be down there on the couch, cuddling, watching movies or whatever during the week. They would stay with us, so we'd offered them that couch. Like, hey, if you want that, you guys are welcome to take that couch if you want. It was just, no, because Salix kind of like had accidents in his pants or whatever on that couch, even though I've cleaned it and it's been steam cleaned and stuff. But no, we'll just leave it here. I'm like, so you guys gonna leave it for us to handle? Like, that's nice. That's like, so we pretty much already decided like we're gonna basically like probably 1-800-GOT-JUNK to just because we've had the couch for a while. It's been well loved. But we're like, yeah, we're gonna probably get a different couch, like couches with pull-out beds or something or whatever. But they changes the bedrooms and the office rooms, so it's like the game room. We have a couch from my mother-in-law that's in there, and there's another couch from her. She's moving, so got a few things from her. Another couch from her, but that's in the garage because that's going to go in one of the spare bedrooms once Allie moves. And my youngest daughter already like just kind of like changed things around in that room. And I walked in the game room and was like, oh wow, this looks pretty awesome. Like nice and organized, nice little setup. Allie was like, yeah, Zoe did that. I'm like, oh cool. So it's like, and then of course like I've noticed that like she's been moving stuff out to the garage. when I got up this afternoon to get ready for work, I peeked into Alex's room, and it was a little bit more empty. Like, she'd moved some stuff out of there, has the bed kind of taken apart a little bit, as one of the dressers and stuff are taken out of there, looking pretty empty. And of course, like, even though, yeah, I'm sad that he's not there, it does help. I think it will help when the rooms are like empty, and then we're putting couches and computer desks and whatnot in those rooms and utilize, because I basically said when they leave, because I'm all about, I believe in the spiritual, I'm religious, but I also believe, I know there's definitely like spiritual forces out there and stuff. You have to basically be careful in your house, like put, basically prayer over your residence, or use sage or whatever to basically like protect your house, your apartment, whatever, your home, so that nothing can come in there that you don't want in there. So I told Zoe, I was like, hey, we when they move out, I was like, I want to convert these rooms, like Mom and I would want to convert these rooms into like office rooms and have like couches with pull-up beds. And I said I want to, and I want to maybe get back into playing video games with you in the gamer, because we won't have anybody using the gamer, so we can, get back on the PlayStation 5 or whatever. I said I want to use that free space, like have, be living it up in like all parts of the house, so that we're not like leaving, just leaving the downstairs unoccupied and just kind of opening that door to invite something in that's gonna, like, all of a sudden, like, we have noises downstairs or things are getting moved around. It's like, no, we're not doing that. Like, we're gonna make sure that we have the house like saged, and I'm gonna be praying over it constantly, and we're gonna, have there be life and light in those spaces, so that the house remains a completely safe and protected space. So because I've had when you're in an area or in a house or whatever, like when I was growing up, I told my bro Rico about this. One of the guys, the Keeping It Real, that has been on there for a while. The Keeping It Real ones now have just been being Barry, but I was telling Rico one day, because I was sending him like one of the videos about the skinwalkers that you hear about in like the Appalachian Mountains or whatever. He's like, yeah, that's all fake, man. I'm like, what do you mean it's all fake? He goes, yeah, I mean, there's like, it's hard to believe, because you can edit videos nowadays. So it's like, for all you know, like, just don't know if it's real, because it's very easy to edit, add special features. I'm like, well, yeah, that's true. But he's like, yeah, I mean, like, I believe in a creator, but I don't necessarily believe in all the supernatural stuff. It's like, I've been in some places that were supposedly haunted, and I've never had anything happen. They've never messed with me or whatever, so I don't believe in that. He's like, I think if there are things out there, I think they only mess with you if you actually give them attention, and I don't, so they never mess with me. And I'm like, I got you. I was like, but I've actually had things happen to me growing up, and I wasn't necessarily giving something attention. I just went in somewhere and something happened that got my attention. Like I said, hell, when I was a kid, I went and was playing, a couple of games late at night out in the streets with a bunch of friends. And I look back now and I was telling them, like, yeah, I walked, I don't remember why I did it at the time, because at the time I was like, why am I going down here? But I kind of like wandered away from the group and went down by my best friend's house, walked around her motorhome that was in her driveway, walked under this big ass tree, and I had my hand on the gate going into her backyard. And again, thinking, why am I doing this? Like, what am I doing? I hadn't opened the gate yet, and I heard a thud behind me. Like something landed in the ground, in the grass right behind me, like a really loud. And I froze. Because of course, that picture, if you will, like, in the movies where they hear something behind them, like a twig snap or heavy breathing, all of a sudden they do that very, very slow, like, turn around, like their eyes are as big as saucers, and they're slowly turn around to look behind them before they get killed. Or before they take off running. I turned around, and basically a big black shadow, red glowing eyes behind me, and it's like, and I told Rico, I said, I know it wasn't somebody playing a trick on me, and it wasn't a solid figure, because I only had, the only direction I could go was through, because behind me was a closed gate. I would have had to open the gate, and then I'd be in the backyard going, where am I going to go now? I'm in the backyard. So I ran through that figure to then run basically all the way home. And, and that's that I've had other scary situations or whatever. Like before wearing my cross and going to the Bible and praying a lot, whatever. Back in Nashville, there were times where I started getting fucked with back there. I was like, my wife would work at like 5 a.m., like 5:30. She'd be heading out to go work. So she'd work at 6, but she would take off at 5:30. But like, I didn't get up for work until like 11. Get to work by like 12:30. And so I would still be in bed, but she would leave at 5:30, and all of a sudden I started having these experiences where she would leave, I would still be in bed, alone in the room in the dark, and all of a sudden I would start to hear heavy breathing right behind me on my side of the bed. The very obvious. And of course I'm like wide-eyed at that point, wide awake. I was like, I'm not asleep anymore, because I know that I'm alone in the room. So it's like, so I would force myself to roll out of bed, probably end up walking through whatever it was that was right there, flip the light on in the hallway, go to the bathroom, go down, use the bathroom, come back, water on my face, whatever. By the time I'd get out of the bathroom and come back down to the bed, then of course I'd be able to flip the light off and crawl back into bed. By that point I was fine. Like, all right, cool, the negative feeling I had is gone. I would go back to sleep. And I told Rico about that. And he's like, yeah, well, bro, sorry you experienced all that. Like, that really sucks. But, it was probably, how it is, bro. It's just your mind playing tricks or whatever. Like, it probably wasn't anything there. I'm like, so you're saying that randomly my mind just decides to start hearing breathing noises behind me? Or my mind is out of the blue, without me thinking about it beforehand, just sees a dark figure with red glowing eyes that I walked right through. I was like, but he talks about, he believes in the creator and, stuff like that. Like, I've had debates with people before where they talked about, like, they don't believe in God and angels and heaven, but they talk about, like, the devil and demons and hell, like, evil. And I'm like, you can't have one without the other. Like, if the devil exists, God exists. If there's a hell, there's a heaven. If there's demons, there's angels. I was like, if one's not there, then the other one's not there either. I was like, that's just how it works. Good and evil there's gotta be a balance. Like, it's not, you can't have darkness without light, and without creators, or where they say like, oh, there's no such thing as like ghosts or souls, whatever. Basically, you're basically saying that when we die, that we're just machines, and we're just gone. Like, it's like an off switch, and we're just. That would be terrifying to me. Like, you just die and you just flip off. You just turned off. That would suck. And I've seen too much weird shit out here to kind of, but. Again, we're random, and I'm like, there was a point I was trying to make when I went off on these rambles or whatever, man, But, oh, okay, well, I was talking about, like, protecting spaces or whatever, so it's like, I started, when I started experiencing that negative energy, whatever presence was showing itself in our apartment in Nashville, I bought my cross, I got my Bible out, was taking it with me, and literally read the Bible. Well, actually, I had a Bible app on my phone, so I would put it on audio, so I'd be listening to, I would just start at the beginning, and I would have her be, reading the Bible to me from the start to finish, and I probably went through the Bible like a couple dozen times over the course of like 2 years. And I would do that, and I would pray, like, not as much now. I still pray every day, but when I first started trying to make it a habit, I probably pray like 15, 20 times a day, just Lord, please forgive me, blah, 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 please protect us. And, Lord's Prayer and all that stuff. And after a couple weeks, because it was like a nightly thing, whenever I would hear feel the presence and hear the breathing in the room. After a couple weeks, I stopped having that experience. Like, whatever it was went away, because, of course, like, I was fighting it spiritually, whatever. I was like, go away, you're not welcome here. Like, in the name of Jesus, get out of here. Like, go away, fuck off. So that's why in our house now, I told my kiddo, like, so we just need to. I was like, I want to have there still be life in all parts of the house. Like, I want to be using those rooms for positive stuff, and literally having this entire house be a safe space. I don't want to have any possibility that anything would feel like it's welcome here when it's not. So I was like, nope, you're not welcome here. Go away. So I've heard something about, like, you don't want to have like a mat on your front step that says welcome, because you'd be welcoming in anything pretty much. I'm like, I never thought about that. But then you have like things where people talk about mirrors. Like, you don't want to have a mirror like facing your bed or something or whatever, because like obviously like other dimensions and whatnot, like something could be literally like watching you from your mirror. I'm like, that's not terrifying. So we've actually had moments where we've actually like had like a big mirror on a dresser that was literally facing our bed, and we literally had that mirror covered up. Because like, whether you're in bed or if you're doing something with your other half or whatever, and like you got your reflections in the mirror, and it's like, yeah, I'm gonna cover that up. I feel like I'm being watched. But so trying to be safe and move forward and stuff. So it's like, it's gonna be interesting when she officially moves, and then it's just me, my wife, and my youngest. Like, I joked with my youngest about groceries the other day, because we're talking about like when Allie moves out, and it was like Thursday or Friday when I was talking to her. She's like, we need groceries, and I was like, well, I want to do groceries, but I said I'm kind of trying to wait until maybe after she moves, her and Logan leave, to do maybe do a bigger grocery run, because I said I don't want to do a big grocery run and then like he's here for the night, and maybe they do this big ass spread or something and go through a lot of food, and it's like, I want to feed them. That's not the thing, but I was like, but they're going to be, they're like, go get their independence. They're moving out, got their own place, and I'm like, so I'll let them take care of what they gotta take care of. I was like, I'll take care of us here, and they can take care of themselves and Sally's. Obviously we'll do what we can, but I was like, yeah, I just wanna wait until it's us, so that we can plan for groceries for what we're gonna do, versus like get a big shopping trip, plan it for everybody only for a couple days. So fun times, but yeah, moving forward and just trying to do the best we can, and it's like that's why the topic being changes upon changes. Like things change. Life happens. All we can do is hope that they'll be happy, and that they'll thrive down there in Georgia and stuff. So it's still sad, of course, times where I find myself be thinking about the grandkiddo, and then I'll start to feel that pang in the chest, and I'll have to shut it down. Like think about put the wall up. I'm like, nope, not thinking about that. Not gonna deal with that right now. But gotta get computer desks in those other rooms. Told my kiddo, I said, I'm thinking about maybe at some point getting a desktop computer, like gaming computer, for that upstairs room, and like the flight simulator, like joystick or whatever, and get back at because I have done computer video games in the past, like Flight Simulator, or back in the day like Duke Nukem 3D. I don't know if any of you guys played that way back, but I used a joystick for it or whatever. I think I might use a joystick for World of Warcraft too, but I got so used to using the keyboard, using the certain key configurations on the keyboard to be able to maneuver around and go around and do your quests on World of Warcraft and whatnot, But I could see how I've even thought about setting up like bookshelves to kind of make a mini like library in one of the rooms. You know, just trying to live it up. What I'm looking forward to is the fact that like right now with everybody, all the bedrooms taken up, there's not really a separate space I can disappear to try to work on like reading stuff for the stories or whatever. Like those aren't gone. Those aren't coming back. It's just a matter of me just. I have to literally force myself to do the work. Like I hadn't done this recording, and here it is, like my day 6 of my work week, and I leave in St. Louis, and it was like, all right, I'm gonna hop on, throw the headset on, and go ahead and do a Real Talk Tuesday episode, because otherwise it's way too easy for me to just basically like, I'll just do it next week. We'll just not have an episode this week. But now that I've had a couple episodes post last week, I'm now trying to see if I can just like stick with it and make sure to get recordings done, so that way we can get them posted each week. Because I don't want to slack, but when I stop, it's hard for me to come back. I eventually do come back. It's just when I take a couple weeks off, then it's even easier for me to just be like, I don't feel like coming back this week yet. I'll come back next week. And the next week happens, and I'm like, I still don't feel like it. I know I need to, but I still don't feel like it. So, anyway, y'all, I think I'll leave you with that. Apologies about it being as long as it is, but anybody who wants to support the show, I know normally I give you guys the BlodgettShow.com link, which is usually BlodgettShow.com/support. The website's down at the moment because I got to pay the. I'm a little behind on the hosting, so once I get that paid, everything it'll thankfully, like, I think I had the site inactive for like 6 months or a year at one point, so at least 6 months, and I was like, is it gone? What if they're like, no, if you just pay all the past due, literally we reactivate it and everything comes back the way it was. I'm like, really? Okay. I think I was like $50 or something, paid the past due, and then literally like I went back into my site and BlodgettShow.com came up. I'm like, oh, sweet. So I had to go in there and make some changes because there was stuff in there, like some links, some stuff that I'm not doing anymore. Since I'm always out here I'm keeping a lookout, trying to figure out how to replace what I'm currently doing. Be able to get home full time, technically retire myself early, and ideally get to a point where I'll be doing this full time. And so I know it's possible. I know there's podcasts out there that do it for like a year, and somehow they're like, yeah, so we just quit our jobs today, and we're full-time podcasters. I'm like, I've been at this for a couple years, and I'm nowhere near that point. But I'm also out here driving full-time, so it's like I'm getting information, talking to people, and looking at companies that help with trying to get your podcast in front of a bunch of people and start like growing your downloads, and that way you can have enough to be able to get sponsors and revenue and stuff like that. So it's like I am working on it. I have a few options out there that I'm gonna try to see if it'll give me that boost I need to get on the Red Circle advertising platform. But if you're a podcast host and you started like I did, with like you're still working full time, whatever, and then eventually you got to that point where you're doing it full time, that's all you do for your job. I would love pointers, like if you have any advice or whatever, on how to like ramp up the show, especially if you're not like an expert at like editing, like an expert at like audio and video and editing and whatnot. If you have any advice is welcome. So BlodgettShowPodcast@gmail.com. Feel free to drop me a line to let me know. But if anybody wants to support the show, since I don't have the site up, actually I'm gonna have the support link, the red circle donation link, in the show notes, as well as like the social media and stuff. So like, follow us on Instagram, literally at Blodgett Show Podcast. My personal Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook, I believe, is TN Trucker Chris, and Twitter X, that is CEAZ Freedom. YouTube, which I'm gonna, because one of the companies I'm looking at that I'm gonna pay them for like a 30-day campaign to ramp up the show and try to grow it. They'd recommended They're like, do you have a YouTube for your show? I'm like, no, not yet. I was like, currently it shares the episodes, the audio part, to my current YouTube channel, whatever. Which that right there is ChristopherBlodgett, but I will be doing a YouTube channel for the show at some point. Got to figure it out. Cause the person I was talking to was like, "Yeah, I just gotta like when you're doing the episodes, record the video." I said, "Well, that's a little complicated because I record when I'm out here working, and I can't do video while I'm working. You know, because that would just look bad. Because people would be like, "Oh, you're driving and you're on video recording this." I'm like, yeah. So it's one thing to have a headset on, hit record, and be doing an audio versus like another thing to be doing audio and you're recording yourself on video while you're out here working. It's like, no, I would have to figure out another thing, but that's the thing with the bedrooms being free and clear now, or in a couple days be free and clear, is I'll actually have space. I can be like, I'm gonna go down here for a couple hours and I'm gonna get Storytime Friday recorded, or I'm gonna get some writing done, or just sit on the couch and just kind of veg out, just be in there, just relaxing, making the most of it stuff. So anyway, guys, on that note, I'll let you guys go. But again, anybody who wants to support the show, the donation link will be in the show notes on the episode. And again, listen, the socials on there, and even all of that'll be listed in the show notes as well. Feel free to follow. But aside from that, appreciate you guys. Keep pushing forward, keep believing, do what you gotta do. Do what I basically, how I always say, guys, do what you have to do until you can do what you want to do. And we never fail unless we quit, give up, and walk away. So as long as you continue to get back up and push forward and doing what you gotta do, you haven't failed. So keep getting up and going after it, no matter how long it takes. Hell, I think I was trying to figure out how to actually start earning online and actually do that full time. I started that back in 2010, 2011, trying to figure that out, but I have no clue what I was doing. And then when I started the show, I had no clue what I was doing, and now I'm a lot better, but I'm still not, don't have that revenue stream yet, but I've got a little bit of the show built or whatever, and now I'm working on eventually monetizing at least one or two YouTube channels, and we're gonna have merch for the Blodgett Show pretty soon. Now I'm gonna be getting a store set up. It's not gonna be like the Blodgett Show store or whatever, but it's gonna be probably like Blodgett such company or something. But it's gonna be, I'm gonna have maybe some text, little caption there like the official merch of the Blodgett Show podcast or something, or the official sponsor of the Blodgett Show podcast. But I already know there will be hoodies, I think hoodies and coffee mugs. Hoodies, shirts, coffee mugs. So. There's gonna be some actual clothing merch as well as some food merch, like coffee or whatever. So big things coming, but I'm trying to too many big things that I gotta take care of. So it's it's on the list. It's one of the things I gotta do, and I'm well, gotta do that. Gotta get my pup into the vet to start treating her, get rid of her heartworms. So that's about $1,000 right there. And got other things that are $700 for this, and then $2,500 for that, $2,800 for this. Man. But I'm just taking it week by week, doing what I gotta do, and then just trying to make it work, and try to keep my head on straight and stuff. So on that note, keep doing what you gotta do. Have a great rest of your week. Follow us on socials. Click that link on in the show notes if you want to support. Anything as low as $1. Hey, any donation will help. And I appreciate you guys. And I will see you guys again on the next episode. And it's I'm thinking I'm gonna do. I'm gonna see. Because I want to have content coming out for you, and I know we've been doing the raw chat and keeping it real for a while, and I'm getting new episodes of the keeping it real. But I know lately, whenever my buddy Dave calls me or whatever, in the past, he would automatically call me on that line, and we would get a raw chat recording. Now it's like he most of the time calls me now on my regular phone line, and then has other truckers connect, and then we end up having a pretty badass conversation with the other truckers. And afterwards, I'm like, that was a really awesome phone call. It would have been a great episode. He goes, yeah, I know. I didn't think about it until like it was happening. And I'm like, well, if you call me on that line, it'll be recorded. So what I'm gonna start doing, unless we start getting recordings done again with Dave, which I don't get the impression he listens to all the episodes. I think he, sometimes listens when it's like a raw chat, but otherwise, So I was like, all right, you know what I'll do is I'm gonna go back, way back from like earlier episodes back from when we started. Maybe start re-releasing those phone calls or whatever. Cause hey, I figure if there's new people that join the show or join the listener base that don't, don't want to go all the way back and listen from like way back or whatever, you guys can just tune in on the current episode. So I figure I'm gonna go about it that way for a minute. That way I have some episodes released for you guys, have some content and stuff. But anyway, I'll quit rambling. I appreciate you guys, and I will see you guys on the next one. Have a good one.